Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Biollywood Podcast, where we unpack biological threats in pop culture. I'm JT O'Brien, Research Principal at the Bipartisan Commission on Biodefense, joined by our Executive Director, Dr. Asha M.
Hello.
And Policy Principal, Rob Bradley.
Hello.
Today, we also welcome our new intern, Madi Kim.
Hello.
And today's episode tackles James Gunn's Superman from this year, 2025. Which is the first film in DC Studios' new shared universe. This film drops us into the world where Superman is already an established hero. After stopping Boravia from invading Jarhanpur, he faces backlash and is publicly outmatched by the Hammer of Boravia. And this is all orchestrated by Lex Luthor. He releases a kaiju-type monster in Metropolis as a diversion, infiltrates a Fortress of Solitude with the engineer, and broadcasts the restored second half of a genuine Kryptonian message from Jor-El and Lara, in which they urge their son to conquer Earth and, quote, take many wives to repopulate their species, sparking a rapid collapse in public trust. If you have not seen Superman, we highly recommend you watch it before continuing this episode because it will contain spoilers. So let's get into this. I think, this is very different from what we've normally covered. In terms of infectious diseases being in film. This is kind of a different take on biology, looking at things like super soldiers, cloning, also erosion in public trust, I think, when it comes to scientific advances. So I think there's a good amount for us here to cover. What was the thing that struck you guys the most from a biodefense perspective, you think, coming into this film?
Well, I would just say generally, to your point, JT, this movie, unlike many others, did not provide an easy blueprint, as it were, for talking about biodefense.
Right.
As far as it pertains to the real world. There was no central disease, zombies, biological threat that you could immediately latch onto and talk about all the various different topics that we cover in our work and our recommendations. But as a result, it was an interesting exercise thinking about how this movie and the concepts therein do apply to the real world. I think you touched on a few of the potential topics in your opener. But one that I want to just briefly mention that we talk about, and it's not necessarily biodefense specific, but something we need to think about as we advance biological sciences is we're talking about a superhuman who contains massive amounts of sun energy, solar energy in his cells. We're also in a real world situation with the advent of AI and elsewhere where we are experiencing a massive crunch and need for energy. And here we have biology as the potential future of energy presented to us in superhero form. What are the implications of trying to capture that sort of activity, that sort of energy within cells, within batteries that are fueled on, at least in part by bio? Is there a future there? So there were a lot of interesting things that this movie directly or indirectly proposes. That I think we and the listeners would be interested in kind of breaking down a bit more.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned the energy, like biological energy and being an untapped resource. Because this is an idea that goes all the way back to the Matrix, using humans as batteries for energy.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting that you brought that up. I hadn't thought of that. But
I'd like to point out that both Rob and JT have red hair, so technically you're both copper tops.
Okay. Deep cut.
Well, you're both what?
Copper tops.
What's that?
The copper top batteries.
Oh, copper top batteries. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, as we're looking for different kinds of forms of energy, what can bio do? What can the sun is the biggest thing that we have, the best source of energy that we have.
And some of our biggest limitations are battery technology.
Exactly. Yeah.
And not just generation of energy, how you store energy as you're generating it.
Right.
And we've kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily we've maxed out lithium ion batteries, but in terms of their potential, but I think we are always looking for potential new avenues of storing that energy in a more efficient way to power phones, to power other pieces of technology, to power all the things that we need to advance biotechnology and biodefense.
Right. And it comes back to the idea of the bioeconomy, right? Too, being able to use biology for a bunch of different critical infrastructure needs.
Yeah, well, when I was thinking about the energy thing, I was also thinking about memory that we've talked about using DNA as a place to store information. So two things there. One is one does wonder about Superman versus the rest of us here on the planet, and how much could he store more? Could he generate more? Could he do, we don't know, right? We haven't really all we have in terms of evidence is as far as this movie is concerned is you have Lex Luthor getting a hold of DNA or DNA equivalent. I don't know that the Superman has actual DNA. Right? Do we
It
see?
seems like he
Do we
does.
see in
Because
what's
Mr. Terrific tracks his path through the portal.
Well, but that's because he puts a tracker in him, right? Doesn't he?
Oh,
His
yeah,
tracker's in
you're right.
everybody.
You're right.
Yeah. He puts a tracker in everybody he encounters. Really
Remember him
super
saying-
paranoid guy.
Yeah.
I think Superman does have DNA.
Yeah, but is it the same DNA? Does it, like we don't know. And maybe that's one of the reasons why Lex's clone didn't come out the way he wanted it to. Is that possible? Because we've optimized on human DNA and Superman's DNA is actually different. And then you apply a process that's been optimized for human DNA.
That's one potential theory. And, I think the movie also demonstrates that Lex is a bit of a loose cannon when it comes to science, that he's not exactly a by-the-book sort of individual. And therefore, perhaps his cloning process, which, we have not theoretically successfully cloned people to that extent,
Right.
to the point of, I haven't seen an adult person walking around who's a facsimile
That you know of.
that I'm aware of. But perhaps he invented a new cloning for technique and didn't bother to make sure it worked okay before immediately throwing Superman's genetic material into it. So it could either be it could either you're correct that Superman's DNA or KNA or whatever we want to call his physiology wasn't as compatible with an established cloning process, or the cloning process itself was potentially haphazard because Luthor doesn't strike me as the individual to make sure that testing and evaluation is conducted on everything he does.
Yeah. But I would say that, no matter what with those two issues, what we're seeing, and I think in this movie, is the potential for biology to do various things or to be exploited, and at the same time, the potential to create systems that are dependent on biology and get to the point where now you have vulnerabilities associated with that.
Yeah, and I think like the whole political piece of this, where it's like, okay, you have Superman, he just happens to be a good guy who has the power to destroy everything. Just so happens to be a good person to a fault, almost to the point where he's saving squirrels in the middle of a disaster. That's not always necessarily going to be the case.
Are you suggesting that he was born that way? Or was he raised that way?
Well, I think the movie itself posits that there's a nature nurture tension there, that the nurture is what really resulted in him being that way,
right? Versus the nature, which because his parents almost wanted him to do Invincible.
Yeah, I want to ask about this, even though this is not bio specific. Are we sure that the translation of the missing part of that message is an accurate translation?
That's what I was thinking when I watched it. I was like, this is AI.
That's what I was thinking
Right?
too. And then I look it up in a few places. I'm like, no, because they mentioned several times on several different occasions from credible sources within the film.
Yeah, Mr. Terrific himself
Mr.
says that he
Terrific
knows some
himself.
of the people who did, check the work and that they're legit and that it's real. Clearly, James Gunn was trying to be as fulsome as possible in making it clear, like, this is real. This is not fake news or...
it speaks to the age that we live in and the difficulty of
Absolutely.
Verification.
verification.
Of the verification
Like that.
issue. As a storyteller, Gunn clearly was trying to just advance the plot. He's trying to establish this point and move on, because the point was that Superman is more than just his background, his origin. and that, while the people might perceive him a certain way, he is who he is. I mean, obviously, the entire movie is about how just nice of a guy he is in an otherwise sarcastic, in some cases, pessimistic world. But for those of us, the viewers watching, are like, I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah.
Even if it was true, and I am not sure I do believe it.
Well, because I feel like it would be a ripoff of Invincible if they did that, which is another show with superheroes, but basically
Yeah.
It's actually,
But even so, my question about this is, if it's true, how do they know? How do people on Krypton know that he's going to be able to come to Earth and procreate?
so
Mm.
So yes, I think that's a good point. I had that same thought as I saw the message. This idea that they just naturally assume Kryptonian DNA would be compatible for reproduction purposes with
Yeah,
humans.
because we have evidence that he's different.
Yeah. Now,
his immune system also.
I mean, they would have to his immune system as well. I mean, they would be able to gather some basic facts. Like, for instance, if they were aware that a yellow sun would empower Kryptonian physiology, they would know that he would be just
Similar knowledge.
physically superior. No, physically superior to the native life on Earth, right? Because they would have reason to believe that nobody on Earth could rival Kryptonian. With that, that's assuming that they knew that the yellow sun actually does do that. There's the source material doesn't always indicate or imply whether or not the Kryptonians were aware of that ability, because they orbited a red sun and therefore didn't actually have any natural abilities on their home planet.
And they do mention at the end of the movie with Supergirl, who was Superman's cousin, played by Millie Alcock. Superman does mention she goes to red planets to party.
She goes to planets orbiting red suns
Because
because she can't
She
metabolize.
got a yellow starred planet.
Yeah. Anyway, the point though is that there's a legitimate question of how would you know that you would be able to interbreed with humans, and whether or not he could survive, that there wasn't a pathogen on Earth that could get him. I mean, remember the whole spoiler alert for a story that's decades old. In the War of the Worlds, what does the aliens in is them not realizing that there was a simple pathogen on planet Earth that could eradicate them. How do the Kryptonians know any better? They might have had some means, but it's not shared in the
It
movie.
sounds like they might, this was a Hail Mary, right? From Kryptonian? Because they're on the
But
last leg.
the sound
Yeah,
just
I'm
went
sure.
the planet was blowing up, and then they
So
spent
is this
more.
the Hail Mary, or was it thought of?
Different
Advanced.
origin stories imply different things. In some cases, they just send the pod out in hopes that it lands somewhere that he can survive. Other times, they have pre-identified Earth as the location. But his origin story has been told and retold and retconned so many times in terms of that particular piece.
Yeah.
It's tough to know for certain.
Gotcha.
But I think it was a good question about whether or not the parents thought through. Clearly, the implication, yet again, is James Gunn is trying to simply tell a story here and isn't worrying about these sorts of details. But I think it makes sense to wonder, when if a foreign entity, whether it's a huge person or something a little bit less human looking, comes to Earth, are there things that we're fine with that might impact them differently,
Or vice versa. Which in the memo I circulated, there was a comic that came out during COVID that explained how his immune system, he just has a ton of stuff in him that he can spread to other people because his immune system can deal with it that other people can't. So somebody was asking, why are you wearing a mask? Superman, he's like, to protect you.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I just raise it as a question.
Yeah.
I don't think that procreation is that straightforward. And I don't know that we know, or that his parents would know, that wherever he landed, even if it was on Earth, that his DNA would, not just his DNA, but just his whole self would be similar enough to allow for procreation. It just seems, for a scientifically advanced society, it just didn't, it sounded so, they were so sure
Yeah.
and so directive.
Well, there's actually, comic books are known for having kind of their what if stories, just as an excuse to tell a story that they wouldn't normally be able to tell in continuity because they need to make money, keep making money with these characters. One what if story that was printed at least 2 or 3 decades ago now posited that Superman and Lois Lane conceived a child, but the child unfortunately became super strong in the womb and accidentally killed Lois.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So it's again, can you successfully procreate if solar energy is making its way into the body of the mother and empowering the child? You know, and since this is all kind of magic to a certain extent, you know, how does solar energy make its way into the system? How is the baby getting the abilities before it's born? But in print, this story was told one time, and obviously, you know, more happens after that. But for our purposes, it's a question even DC has posited before.
So in the solar energy business, do you think that they came up with this concept for Superman, having regenerative properties that are enhanced by being in the sun? Do you think they got that by thinking about how human beings converts the sun into vitamin D, or we get vitamin D or whatever? Right.
Probably.
I think it's I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think, yeah, that probably because they just want to make sure that it's known that he's just enhanced. He's just us, like, enhanced. So I guess maybe that was the thought going into it. He's just us, but better. So everything is just to the max.
It's
I like us getting vitamin D from the sun, but he gets super strength because it's.
Yeah.
I think it's also a necessity from a storytelling perspective because normal means of medical assistance are positive with Superman. If he gets beaten up, if he breaks a bone, you can't, you know, his bones are super strong. Most human beings probably could not actually move his bones back into place. So how are you going to help someone who is injured, who's that strong? You can't even cut open his skin to treat anything internal if there's internal bleeding. That's why most of the time in comic books, he's not getting hurt as badly as he is in the the beginning scenes.
Is that why he has only like robots helping, you think?
Well, those are actually deep cut references back to earlier eras of Superman, and even more recent ones where he's had assistants in the Fortress of Solitude. And it's not to say he hasn't been injured in the comics, and in the comics do portray him as being the healing process being helped by sunlight. I don't know if I've ever actually seen a very extreme version of that as it plays out at the beginning of the film, where they basically take a massive magnifying glass and shoot him with solar, lasers, basically, and you see the bones popping back into place in real time. Most of the time he just has to recover. And being exposed to sunlight helps with that, but it will take a while for him to get there. So I think that they just did it because since they decided that he can take damage in this movie in a way that he couldn't elsewhere, they had to figure out a way to get him back in the fight if he's really getting hurt.
Gotcha. So is the sun thing specifically from this movie, or is that canon?
Well, again, I can't say that there has never been a Superman comic where this is not hasn't happened, when it has happened, but it doesn't traditionally. When he is injured, it's more of a case of he wants to be in the sunlight because it helps him heal, not let's shoot him with solar energy and he'll immediately
let's not
heal.
create a sun with it.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, there are other technologies that are portrayed in this Fortress of Solitude, almost like a back-to-tank for Superman to help. There's a resurrection coffin when he was killed in the comic books that actually brought him back to life. But nothing that I've seen like this. So I think it was a conceit that was used for the movie to show, first, that he can be injured, and two, that there is a way for him to get back up quickly.
Gotcha. So with the familial connection, just quickly, where did his cousin and the dog come from? Don't get me wrong, the dog was like the best part of the movie, but
The cousin, I think, was sent with him to Earth when Krypton like exploded or whatever happened to it, but then her pod got lost in orbit. So then she was like a teenager and he was a baby, but he got sent to Earth, and then she was like frozen in the pod, and then somehow she got to Earth too. But then when she comes to Earth, she's like still a teenager and he's like a grown man.
Yeah.
So that's why she's actually older. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
after the dog comes from, but I think it's her dog.
I will
supposed to be
Then-
it's portrayed. The movie implies that it's her dog, and I'll be honest. I've never been on the crypto train all that much, so I'm not very familiar with his backstory from the comics. But you're absolutely right. It's this weird situation for her where she's older than him, but physically he has lived more years than she has. And so, I'm sure they'll explore more of that dynamic when she gets her own film next year. But I guess, clearly the pods are cryostasis. And so she's emerging at the exact same physical age, when she comes out of the pod as when she left Krypton, but her cousin was released 25 years before she was.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I didn't know how the relationships worked. I was curious. It's like, does that mean he has a brother or like?
Yeah.
None that I'm aware of.
Yeah, like
Well, and did she get the same imperative from her parents?
Well, so that's
yeah, was she raised?
Well, I think there were a lot of people who had that question when the movie came out of, if she was a teenager when she left Krypton, then she must have understood that the Kryptonians were kind of like this to begin with, but she clearly never said anything to Clark about it.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if they're going to explore that more, and also what impact that sort of mentality as a society has on a teenager, and maybe is that why she's going, to Red Sun circulating worlds to party, to just kind of forget about her upbringing. But
Yeah.
But to go back quickly to the notion of impact of pathogens on Earth to Kryptonian physiology, one thing that I've always kind of wondered, and sometimes in the comics they do have biological threats.
Yeah.
There's a deadly disease that affects everyone, and is also in some cases shown to infect or impact Superman. But if you are the smartest person in the world, as Lex is, and you want to defeat this individual, clearly it seems that he let his ego get the best of him because he wanted to demonstrate that he, with just a brain, could defeat him.
He was at the point where he was like, I'll destroy the world together.
But if you have whatever his genetic material is, why not? Couldn't you just tailor make a biological weapon to kill Superman?
Why not? I mean, with his capabilities, the fact that he's able to create portals
and create his own pocket
and accidentally create a dimensional rift, he should be able to deliver a virus with a toxin kryptonite payload.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is delivered exclusively to Superman.
I mean,
especially with that guy who just luckily was there in the prison that could make any element.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I think they mentioned that there was no Krypton left or kryptonite left.
Yeah.
But then they had the guy who could grow it. So I don't know why that's what I was thinking. I was like, I don't know why he didn't like shave off a piece or like, I don't know, a gas. Like a grenade or something.
Or find a way to, to block off Superman's cell receptors from absorbing solar radiation with a virus or something like that. Right. I mean, I feel like there's so many different ways that he could approach trying to either depower or eliminate Superman.
Yeah. And I do think some of the ideas that he had were good ones. Like with the engineer, I think, swarming his lungs with the nanites. Okay, I was like, okay, I can't see a reason why that wouldn't work, but then it didn't.
Yeah, that because it's Superman.
Yeah.
Well, when we saw the movie, JT and I saw it together. I asked him about the engineer. Did it count as a cyber biosecurity example? Or cyber bio example, and then from there, are we calling it a cyber biosecurity issue? The way she deals with things, the way she goes through. Now he said yes.
So I think it's a yes, but I do think we need more information about her powers and how they interact with biology. It seems very clear that her powers interact with tech just fine. She was able to find and reconstruct that damaged message. What wasn't as clear was the biological impacts of those nanites on, because when it came to Superman, it seemed like it was just more of a fill the zone type thing, like fill the lungs up with something. It could be anything. It doesn't matter. Just fill the lungs up so we can breathe it. So I don't know what the biological impacts of it are, but there might be biological impacts especially on normal people compared to Superman. Maybe for Superman, you just needed to accumulate that mass in the lung. And it was more about that than it was about the
But then also,
biology.
with her, maybe the way to defeat her is through biology and not through the tech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's still partly human.
At least,
Well, she
thinks she is.
She didn't survive the impact, right?
I don't know if they established that she actually died when they crashed in the tunnel. I don't remember.
I feel like I don't know. They might bring her back.
But she clearly was injured by it. I mean,
she was nervous about it. She was nervous because she was like coming down, and she said, "I don't know if I can survive this impact coming down."
Mm-hmm.
But assuming that she's still partly human, a virus of either the computer or organic variety might be able to impact her. It was also someone with abilities like that, one could imagine would have a great deal to contribute positively to biotechnology if they were a force for good, being able to interface directly with systems and be able to turn any part of their body essentially into a machine. Like, it seems pretty useful to me. Literally Swiss Army knife.
You combine her with the guy can combine himself with it, like, or make any element.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Unlimited energy. Let's talk about Lex Luthor for a second, because I think he is a very good representation of a very rich, smart person who thinks they have good intentions and ends up doing something catastrophic.
Does he think he has good intentions?
I think he actually does really believe that Superman is a national security threat, and I don't think
so. I think he's just saying that.
I mean, he is behind the national security threat. Objectively, we're just lucky that he's a nice guy.
Well, but we are lucky, and so therefore he is not.
Yeah.
I mean, we have evidence of his behavior.
Yeah.
You know, Lex
over time.
But and you said it earlier. This is all about ego.
It is for him. Yes.
Embarrassment and stuff. It's not really that he's so concerned. His reaction is as if Superman has already done something, and then he's saying, okay, and he's using some pretty weak justification, but that's how he's behaving, but it's not true.
Right, exactly. It's not true.
Right.
But my point is, you have these powerful, rich people who have the capability and resources to do something like this.
On the basis of what they believe or they say they believe.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry, Maddie, what were you?
I don't think he actually believes it either. I mean, he definitely just wants to pose him as a national security threat, but I don't think he believes it. And yeah, I think it's about ego. He had like the long monologue when he was in the fight room, the floaty room.
Yeah.
And he said, I think he said like, Superman just makes everyone feel less than, like something like that. Like that's his whole like driving thing, is he just hates that he makes humans inferior. And then I mean he definitely sees him as like a pathogen from like an alien from like outer space. Yeah, so I guess that's I don't think he thinks he's like a threat, because he keeps orchestrating like the Boravia invasion. Like he orchestrated the whole thing. And
so you're right, because at the end he was like, I didn't like do all of this to get control of the other country, and I did it to get to you.
Yeah. You can tell based on his words and actions that he is aware that how he feels and what he is doing would not be perceived well by the public. There is an awareness that what he is doing would be perceived as bad. But I think Matt is absolutely right. It's a primal instinct that he is giving into. With all of his intelligence, with all of, the smartest man in the world, everything at his fingertips, he cannot handle the idea that there is a superior being out there. And he's giving into that ego and those baser instincts and risking everything ultimately to try to eliminate him.
But in a very stupid kind of way. I mean, he's put a huge number of resources towards a very limited set of ways to attack Superman. Rob, you just said it. If he had just taken, I don't know, an hour and put some of his billions towards that, somebody might have been able to design a pathogen. Yeah. Instead, he decided to create a clone.
And only one clone.
Yeah.
Why not create an army of clones?
And an adequate clone. And an
Yeah,
adequate
you
one
know,
too. No QA, QC. This is
Yeah.
not. It doesn't fit with Luthor Co. or whatever it was back in the day, right?
Yeah.
It does. It really doesn't. It's irrational.
Yep, and that's I think that's what the movie was going for, to show that he is both the smartest and dumbest man in some ways. Intellectually, superior to most on Earth, but prone to the weaknesses and moral failings inherent in every person. And because he has this status and the power and the money, he lets himself, he gives himself into those.
And I think that's a really important point because, like all smart people will have dumb moments and they'll be dumb about certain things. And that's okay. That's just what makes you human. Superman also, I think, shows that in this. He sees the good in their nature to a fault, despite how high the level he's at compared to everybody else when it comes to physical capabilities and intelligence even.
Yeah.
Do you think he's intellectually superior?
Who, Luthor?
No, Superman.
No.
I mean,
Sorry, who are you talking about? Superman or Luthor?
both. I'm saying it doesn't.
Which one is? Are you saying is intellectually superior?
Luthor.
Okay.
He's intellectually superior, and Superman is
I don't think he is.
physically.
He's
I mean,
got-
he thinks he is.
Well-
Like the point I'm trying to make is people like when people get really good at one thing,
Uh-huh.
they think that expands to everything. So that
Yeah.
they think that they are
Just better.
just better at everything.
Yeah. I think in terms of intelligence, Asha, I think the only explanation I could come up with for why he made one clone is that he wanted to demonstrate that with the exact same power set as Superman, he could beat Superman one-on-one. That his brain, informing the moves of that clone,
That's why the code or
he had the different moves, and he
Yeah.
was the one giving the orders. He designed that system specifically because he wanted it to be him beating Superman in combat. Now, whether or not that means that he's in fact smarter than Superman in all ways is up for debate. But I think at least in some ways, there's not really any debate about whether or not he's more intelligent or at least knows more in some areas. And apparently he's even better at analyzing fight moves and developing countermeasures to them. So I think, there are obviously some areas, though, particularly on the emotional side, where he is deficient compared to Superman. One point that I will give Luthor here when he's talking about how Superman's mere existence makes everyone feel less than. I've been thinking about cloning a lot as we were talking about or preparing for this recording. You have this comparison between DC and Marvel. In DC, Superman is the ideal. Every effort to clone, or the major efforts to clone the perfect being in the DC universe, are oftentimes based on Superman. You've got obviously this clone from this movie. You have Superboy, who is a half Superman, half Lex Luthor clone. Not the exact same perfect power set, but very similar. And then, of course, you have Bizarro, the poor forgotten clone that we try not to talk about, who was a imperfect clone, really deteriorating clone. But all those cloning efforts are based off of this idea that you want to create Superman or recreate Superman's powers in a person. Then you look at Marvel. What is the Super Soldier program in Marvel? It's just trying to take a human and make them better. And so I will admit I'll admit that Luthor was right about one thing. His existence forces people to aim for him if you are going to create something superior, something better. In terms of human physiology, in terms of, biological weaponry, Superman is the standard now. And that can have an impact on a society.
But is that a bad thing?
Potentially the double-edged sword. Good and bad. It does drive people to strive harder, but also understanding you're going to fall far short most of the time. Whereas in Marvel, the heroes, with the exception of Thor and Hulk, are much more down to earth. There's this feeling that maybe if I advance a little bit here or there, I too can join the ranks. The delta isn't as high, and in the case of those who what?
The Hulk is a human that's...
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was the result of a radiation experiment. So the portrayals are very interesting in the sense that, you have an active super soldier program in one, and in the other, sporadic cloning efforts that are almost entirely based on trying to recreate Superman.
So, and if that's the case, do we define all of them as gain of function?
That's a good question.
Yeah. I don't see why.
And if we
not.
do, then do all of our concerns and rules apply?
Well, I think
Should
there's
we
a
not
spectrum
have?
of being
Should we have not? I mean, if we're here in the United States with our current set of rules and laws, shouldn't someone have said, "No, Lex, this is too far"?
Well, actually, that's a great point. If you're in the Marvel world, in our real world, you can make an argument that's too far, that there, you know, that we shouldn't
How to
engage in sort of
control it?
thing.
I mean, he's complaining about not being able to control Superman.
Mhm.
We don't know what's going to come of the clone.
But
right.
Superman's existence, again, to go back to the argument he's making, Superman's existence can better justify more extreme gain of function activities, because if Superman exists, there's no guarantee that he's the only one out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you have to just assume that you will need capabilities to take down someone of Superman's stature.
It's like when we made nukes, other countries had to.
I agree. I agree with this, and this is something I thought about quite a bit with the mirror biology debate.
Yeah.
You know, it's extremely dangerous. Everybody's really worried about it. It could be extinction level if we lose control of it, etc., etc. But to have a group of scientists running around saying, "Well, everybody needs to stop," and leave it at that, I think is irresponsible, and it's also unrealistic because we have to assume others are going to engage
Yeah.
in that science, and if they do, we have to engage in something in order to be able to defend ourselves.
Right. It's like you always have to assume there's a Lex Luthor out there
Mm-hmm.
who all it takes is one person
And one thing.
that this is the right thing to do in their head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Objectivity is out the window.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen this several times with you know, scientific research, especially when it comes to things like publishing, how to make horse pox in the or how to make different pathogens in the lab, how to improve them. The scientists thought they were doing the right thing by publishing that research, but didn't consider that they were giving a how-to guide to everybody else. And then all it takes is one person to decide, I want to do this for bad reasons.
Yeah, I agree.
And when there's 7 billion people on it, I mean, you can math it down to get the people that are actually capable, but it's still a scary number.
Well,
I think
and I think it speaks to the need for really thinking about our policy situation here. What are we talking about? You know, people just saying, well, the policy should be no mirror life biology experiments. Let's not do that. Let's not do gain of function. Let's not do whatever. But I think that's just, first of all, it's not good policy. That's just the expression of opinion. And then second of all, I don't think it's applicable. I think this stuff is so, you know, it's so far gone already down the road.
well, now that there's been all this press about it, I mean, before all of this, there were only a handful of researchers actually working
Yeah.
on it. But now that it's out in the public, I mean, it was out in the public before, but now it's gotten this additional attention that raises questions as to
Yeah. So
proliferation.
I think that we talk about cyber evolving and bio evolving. Somehow we have to make it so that the policy and lawmaking community evolves somehow at the same pace
Yeah.
or to some equivalent level. And we're just nowhere with that stuff.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say nowhere. Very little has made it into the policy realm, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Very little has, and very little that can keep pace with
Mm-hmm.
the advancements that are happening. And you see that with AI.
Mm-hmm.
You see it with bio, you see it with pretty much every
Nuclear.
Policy is always going to lag behind. It's just closing that gap that really matters. And getting that gap as small as possible. Or if there's policy way to get ahead of it, which
Is there?
No,
no,
I don't think there is. Not when you have a democratized sort of technology or
yeah,
capability.
the issue. Democracy.
You know, nuclear bomb was easy enough to develop policy around. Only 2 people had it for a while, right? And then it went out from there.
It was super hard to.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's still the question as to whether nuclear policy is even sufficient.
Mhm.
And for the longest time, we were operating with mutually assured destruction as our policy, which really doesn't make any sense. I don't know that we ever got it on the nuclear side. I don't know that what we have is sufficient. I don't know that it can be. The other thing I would say, Rob, is not only do we have a lag in that only two, or we think, or at least a very small group of countries
Yeah.
had that technology and had the science. The other thing is, we did not, from the 1940s until now, we really haven't significantly improved upon that technology. Not for the purposes of the bomb and stuff. We have. I'm not saying we haven't done it at all, but
From a strategic or operational perspective.
I just feel like it's pretty much
Just who can make the bigger bomb.
who can make it bigger or who can make it a little bit more potent or whatever, but we kind of sort of left it.
No,
As
because there's no
opposed-
need to further iterate on it when you can already level most of a city.
Correct.
You've already demonstrated the deterrent effect, and that's the intent.
Yeah. But I don't think that's the case with bio.
No, well,
No.
bio is not about deterrence at all, unless you're talking about being able to develop countermeasures, rapidly in
Yeah.
response to it.
And I don't know that a countermeasure, we've had this debate before. I don't know that countermeasures count as something that's sufficiently deterrent.
The nation states it might, because it might lessen the value of developing and deploying a weapon.
Maybe.
For lone wolves or smaller actors, they don't care. The
But
intent is
I
to
think-
cause fear.
I think for anybody that doesn't care.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more of those people out there than I think people realize. People who don't care about like rational choice theory gets brought up a lot in these kinds of discussions.
Mhm.
But you have to understand you're not dealing with rational.
National people.
Rational
Or
people.
their rationality is different from your rationality.
Right. Their rationality could be completely valid within a bubble.
Mhm.
Like, if I end the world, I will, go to heaven type thing. That if that's what you believe,
Well, it's
then
not-
it's rational to follow those steps.
yeah, and I think
But-
there's a question of end
yeah.
goal too, right? So
Yeah.
if your end goal is not actually to quote unquote win, but instead it's to draw down resources, then you kind of want something that's sort of kind of efficient and kind of not, and has everybody spinning around and
Right.
doing stuff, wasting money, wasting time, wasting energy. And then you come in with something else.
Right. I mean, from a resource, I think that's a great point. From a resource perspective, doesn't matter how, and I don't like to use COVID as an example because I'm not trying to equate it to a biological weapon, but think about how much resources it took to deal with, even though we could with the vaccine. Even if it was something else, from a resource perspective, that took a lot out of us, not even just in the cost of human capital and human lives, but in terms of resources and economic
Impact.
impacts. So there's people often think, I think, about biological weapons as being the mortality is the main.
Well, and I think in this movie, one of the things that irritated me so much was it just felt like there were so many things going on. Why that our government is like, why no one in the government never said, this is just a distraction. This is not worth it. Superman's not doing anything. We had to wait until the end of the movie before everybody was like, oh, he's great. He's wonderful. We like him again. It just felt like nobody was paying attention to how many resources we're, putting out. How big is this contract at Luthor Corps? Like, what is... No, they were just sort of letting it happen and letting it happen and letting it go and letting it go. And then finally it's like, oh, okay. I guess we'll stop this.
You don't think that it's a rational decision making by a government to recognize when there's something outside their control and outside their power that could level individual cities in their country with a moment's notice, and the only thing that's stopping it is that this person at the age of 25 seems like a good guy? What about 5 years later? What about 10 years later? Isn't it rational government policy to develop countermeasures just in case he has a bad day?
I think I agree with you. I think that,
Anyway,
but I didn't feel like what Luthor was doing was developing adequate countermeasures.
No,
he
yeah.
was just
But
like
he's the only
going to
guy in
war,
town.
and then you're just watching this completely inefficient, ineffective war going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I grant it's a movie. We want to watch this, but I think it happens more often than we want to admit.
Yeah, with I think lower stakes, absolutely. I think there are things, policies that are made, decisions that are made that are distractions all the time in bio and elsewhere. I think the intent with this movie and with other media is to make it very white and black, or black and white. That, well, clearly, if you ever were to break bad, then we're done for. So we need to have a policy. But when you enter the shades of gray about certain smaller threats, smaller issues that the government chooses or does not choose to focus on, I think there's a real question of how we're prioritizing policy development and direction of resources.
Yeah. I think, the comparison to some of the other superhero media that's out there right now, when it comes to Superman, you have Omni-Man from Invincible, who basically has similar origin-ish story.
It was intended to be a
It's
parody or
Omni-Man. What's Omni-Man?
it's a different comic book series called Invincible.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought we...
Yeah.
something-
No. But
And it's
as
just-
his own show, but basically, like, they come from their own planet,
Uh-huh.
and the whole point is he comes to the planet to repopulate,
Oh. okay.
because they have population issues.
Yeah.
And then you have Homelander.
And then there's a comic book series put up by Boom Comics about 10, 15 years ago now called Irredeemable, which basically is like Homelander except on steroids. Yeah, I mean, the irredeemable individual is the Superman type character who has a lot of mental trauma and issues, psychological issues, and does in fact break bad and start to really, for mature readers only, is what I would recommend there.
Yeah.
But you've seen other companies and other folks kind of take this concept of a Superman and examine what happens when that person is not perfectly good.
Right.
Mhm.
Marvel has Vision, which is like he's a robot,
Yeah.
but he is kind of like as a Superman type figure.
He does kind of feel like Superman,
Yeah.
especially with the cape.
I guess the only difference is he doesn't have human internal organs and stuff.
Mhm.
I think he's just powered by his like stone. But yeah.
Yeah, and then that raises other questions. If the super powered thing in the question is a machine rather than a human, even if it's a thinking machine, is there a new level of susceptibility or vulnerability?
Right.
Could there be a cyber attack on
That
Well,
acts-
this issue doesn't come up on the Marvel side, does it? Do people question if we should be doing something about Thor and being able to defeat Thor?
Yes.
It's the same kind of reason.
Not just because Thor is Thor, but more generally with the superheroes in mass.
Mhm.
It was as shown in both the Captain America Civil War movie as well as in the 2006-2007 miniseries of the same name. The U.S. government starts to wonder if it is reasonable to allow a bunch of masked vigilantes to operate without government approval, training, or liability.
Yeah, so I hear you on that, but what I'm asking is, did anybody say, from a scientific standpoint, say these people or these entities or these whatevers are so powerful, we have to figure out a way to defeat them, as opposed to you guys aren't allowed to do what you're supposed to do or what you think you're supposed to do, stand down.
Well, I think it's not addressed as bluntly as it is in Superman, just because of the power, again, the sheer power level of Superman as essentially a nation-ending threat all in of himself. But in Civil War, you do have that question of, in the movie, you have this question of, you brought the entire nation of Sokovia down from the sky and basically destroyed the entire country. Just 6 individuals fighting a bad guy, or 8 individuals. We can't just let this happen. You guys are too powerful to just leave alone. And I think they show the countermeasure piece with enlisting Tony to help them try to get other people on board to sign the accords, and then Tony bringing in other superpowered individuals to try to rein in the heroes who have chosen not to embrace the accords. But because everyone is at least human derivative or human based for the most part, except for Thor and Hulk at this point, you can bring in other superheroes to address or otherwise confront those who are acting badly. When it's Superman, who do you bring in?
Yeah.
Well, so here's my question, and we're completely outside of the Superman side. Could Wakanda be enlisted with their scientific prowess to figure out how to defeat,
Yeah.
If Luthor could do it with, a piece of hair, some DNA, don't you think that they just have such superior capabilities those would be the people that I would go to. I would give the contract to them.
Oh, certainly. If they were in the same universe as Superman, I think their possession of vibranium in and of itself makes them best suited to pursue potential solutions. I mean, they've already demonstrated in the movies that they can recreate, essentially a 3D print a flower that gives superhuman abilities to the person who imbibes it. In addition to all the various technology, suits, and weapons. I mean, yeah, they're number one on my list if I'm looking for a anti-Superman solution. Sadly, they don't exist in the DC world, though.
No, but I was actually thinking more about who's on the Marvel side.
Well, I mean, if you want to bring in someone to solve the Superman problem, you're probably looking for someone with a power set up near where he's at.
Okay.
All right. Are there any last things that you guys wanted to mention before we get to the ratings? Or
well, did we want to talk about the kaiju at all?
we talked about it, yeah. I thought it was hilarious how it started out as like a small, thing, and then
Kept eating.
yeah, but then just within hours.
Does that have a basis in science in the real world that some small organism like that can grow that exponentially that quickly?
Not that I'm aware of, and there might be something. I mean, cancer grows pretty fast.
Well, I think it's all relative, right? I mean, we grow pretty fast too.
Also, how do you reckon Luthor created that creature? Because clearly it wasn't something he captured. He created the kaiju.
Yeah, he had to make it.
Do you think? I mean, it had a very alien-like appearance to it. But do you think it's more reasonable that he took Earth-based specimens and mashed them together, or that he found something extraterrestrial?
I think that he found something extraterrestrial.
You do?
I think so, because it doesn't. I mean, at least. And I'm going on the visual representation of it, like whatever the artist decided to make it. It didn't really seem to have a lot of features that I could say, oh, it's clearly that animal. That's just, or these combination of animals or chimera of animals is very obvious. It seemed like it was more of an extraterrestrial type thing.
I did not like the use of the word kaiju.
Yeah, I don't think it fits really, because a kaiju
in like other movies and
kaiju usually means something different. I feel like.
I don't know if it's different necessarily.
I don't know.
In Pacific Rim, that's what we fight in Pacific Rim. Gigantic kaijus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in other things. Like, why?
Well, I mean,
is that a word? Does it mean something?
Well, it's a broad term that was used for many years to describe Godzilla and all the various monsters that showed up in Godzilla films. And I think it is just taken off in common vernacular to describe building-sized monsters that end up inevitably wandering into a metropolitan area to wreak havoc. I don't know, Maddie, if you're familiar at all with that.
No, I'm not familiar. But I am wondering, did Lex Luthor create or engineer the Metamorpho guy? Or
No.
was he born is he an alien?
No, he, I believe, is a person who was born or obtained those powers on his own, at least in the source material.
And then his son, does his son have the powers, the baby?
Because the son looked different.
So I definitely kind of looked a little bit him. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't remember whether or not his son also has powers, because he had his son with the very human-looking woman that he's seen with at the end of the film.
Yeah. Oh, so he could reproduce with.
Yeah, so he could, but
is he off planet?
no, I think he lives on Earth.
I mean, he seemed to have very
Traditional apartment looking apartment or
Yeah, but
house.
he's come here.
even the way he acts seemed to be very human.
He has a human name. His name was Rex something or another. So I think he was
No.
born a human and then became metamorph.
You guys want to get to the ratings? All right. So the first category is relevance to commission recommendations.
I think there are a few that I think apply.
Yeah,
I mean, we'd have to modify the National Biodefense strategy,
quite a bit.
right?
We'd be modifying the National Defense Strategy.
National Superman Defense
We'd
Strategy.
be modifying the National Security Council.
Yeah, but none of that stuff is part of our commission recommendations other than the National Biodefense strategy. We would need, I mean, it's clear to me that the National Intelligence Manager for Bio remains a critical, requirement, especially in this situation, because there's more to be learned, especially about what everybody else is doing. The gain of function, we have like a few, not a lot of gain of function recommendations.
Defense, maybe.
Astrobot, well, I mean, technically
this
Superman came
way...
Yeah.
yeah, but we haven't taken that into consideration really in our Astro Biodefense.
Not that.
So
no.
actually, I would say there are probably more implications for our recommendations than applicability to our recommendations, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that does make sense.
So I would give it a 2.
Yeah. I think that's probably where I'm at.
A 2. I agree. Yeah. Okay. Next category is scientific accuracy. I don't think they're really like. I'm okay with science, like with science fiction, as long as they try to explain it.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think that was really done.
Well, that's because this wasn't science fiction.
Exactly.
This was fantasy.
It was bad.
It was fantasy with a science veneer to it.
Right. So I would have to for the accuracy, bring it down.
I mean, it's a 0, man.
No.
He's wearing red tights and he's flying in the sky. Do you think that's scientifically accurate?
Well, like at least in the show Invincible, they say when he's teaching his son how to fly, he's like, you can create your own leverage. Because normally when somebody's flying, you shouldn't be able to punch somebody because there's no leverage behind you. He's that when he like I guess they have that explanation in it.
What are we saying then? Are we saying that this isn't scientifically accurate because it's
Well, also how the
there are
science
no explanations?
None of the technology in this movie is explained or is even attempted to give a reasonable explanation. And we're not just talking about Superman and his biology.
Dimensional rifts
that open and then immediately collapse when a certain an equation is inputted without any apparent lasting damage beyond the building.
What about the engineer? You said that you thought some of what she was doing was accurate.
It could be if we take the assumption that she just can control computers, or like a magician. Like,
I mean, let me count the ways, and I want to again.
What about
by saying,
the sunshine piece?
I think that maybe I'll give it a point for that for extrapolating on a understood concept.
I was also confused on the Krypton when he was in the confinement.
Yeah, I know.
The container, and then he started like welting from I guess poisoning from it. Is it it's radiation
for him?
It's radiation that it interferes with his cells. The impact of kryptonite on Superman kind of varies across different trails. This was a little bit more extreme. It literally looked like he was having a major allergic reaction almost.
Yeah.
In addition to being weakened, and in some cases, he feels weak and he doesn't have his powers, but doesn't, look like he's about to die from just exposure to it. But it does vary. You've got Mr. Terrific and his T-spheres, which there is no factual basis for that.
It seems their function changes based on the
and then on the need of the script, and then again, I love me some Green Lantern, but nothing he does has any scientific basis.
Not in this movie. Well, okay, so what are you giving it? It's so science oriented. It feels like wrong to give it a 0.
It's not.
I would probably give it a 2, maybe a 1 or a 2.
I guess I can. I guess I can go along to the 1, but that's as high as I can go right on this.
What do you think, though?
I think a 1.
A 1?
A 1.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go for a 1.
We'll go for 1. Okay, scenario development is the next category. The thing I liked about the scenario was the way it tried to intertwine international politics. I thought that was pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
And there are very clear parallels to what's happening in the world right now. I won't say which war, but I think both probably apply.
Yeah. I saw someone said that he probably wrote the script and the screenplay during 2021 or something, and then he probably made changes to it, and then as it evolved it more mirrors one over the other, but I don't know.
No, yeah, but I think you're right. There are those parallels. It raises interesting questions, I think. which is
Okay.
what was
So that's what
important about
that's
the
good
scenario.
for the scenario.
Well, I think what I appreciated was that they focused a lot on the government's response or thoughts
There's a lot of government. Yeah.
about Superman as an entity, about the impact on geopolitical relationships, and I'll give you credit for the officials' initial response to, which is to say, Superman we're talking about. Why are we having all these conversations? And it's only when there is credible evidence that might call into question an ulterior motive when they have to reluctantly start viewing things differently, but not
Yeah.
necessarily through the lens of he's absolutely a villain, just we need to figure out why this is out there, what this means for our relationship with him. Then things kind of go off the rails when they put in Luthor in charge of him. But but I think from a scenario perspective, it is an interesting take on the character that we haven't really seen in movies before.
Yeah. I agree. So what do you guys think?
I think that it's a good set of scenarios, not necessarily bio-related scenarios.
Right.
So I guess I would give it a 3,
That's what
3.5.
3.5.
I was
Yeah.
thinking a 3, but
What do you think, Maddie?
3 for bio related.
3 for bio,
Yeah.
and then what for?
Just in general, I think, more towards a 4. Because I think.
Right, that's why I gave it a
Yeah.
3.5.
okay, all right.
Okay. We'll go with 3.5. I like that
Okay.
interpretation. Okay. The next category is entertainment value. I think a 5. 4 or 5.
I agree. I think it was a 5.
A 5?
The dog is
Fight so hard for higher ratings.
Dog.
You've been fighting so hard for higher ratings in the other categories, and this is the one where you're like, I don't know if I want to give it a 5.
I don't know.
You didn't...
Just on the basis of the dog?
No, not. That was a joke.
I
But
really enjoyed the ending. And I
Yeah.
like the ending when they show his parents.
yeah.
And when he's healing. And they show a
Uh-huh.
montage of his adopted parents. I liked that.
Uh-huh.
Thought that was very full circle.
Yeah, it was very a full circle because like toward the end of the film, you're like, there's like 3 things they need to wrap up.
Yeah.
How are they going to do it? And they do it, all 3, perfectly.
Yeah, but are we really giving it a 5?
And we can go with a 4 if you want.
Yeah, what
What
do you
is-
guys think?
I'm trying to remember what we've been giving recent movies when it comes to
Like, I mean, yeah, think about the other movies we graded. I don't know that I think this is the best scenario or on the same level as some of the ones we've given a 5.
I'll ask you one question. Do you think this is more entertaining than Hobbs and Shaw?
I would say it's the same. Did we
Okay.
give that a 5?
You did.
Okay, then I guess we're giving this one a 5.
Past Asha has spoken.
Yeah, we really need to do the analytics on these because there's some numbers that don't make sense.
We've been talking a lot about reevaluating our categories and scale,
Yeah.
because we keep finding ourselves in these situations where
It's going to hover around 3, 5,
Yeah.
and 7.
yeah, I think the running joke is that most of our final scores end up being about 3-7.
Somewhere between 3.5 and 3.7. Yeah, I don't think we've gone below that. No, Hobbs and Shaw did get lower ratings, but the only 5 it got was entertainment value.
I know, but we're at a scenario, right? Or
No,
that's
the
okay.
entertainment value.
Oh.
Scenario gave 3.5.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Success of the imagination and creativity. I'm curious.
Creative.
I thought it was creative too, but I'm curious for Rob and Maddie's thoughts. Do you guys have any like background history on the Superman stuff? Or
What do you think?
I feel like I have very minimal, but I don't know if like the engineer was a comic book character or not, or if they changed it for the movie.
The engineer does come from a comic book called The Authority, and I believe they're actually gonna get their own movie sometime in the future. I don't recall how different the character was in Superman versus the original comic book, but it is not a new character. It is somebody who was there previously. I think I would say that it was a creative way to interpret the source material.
yeah,
But I would not say that there was too much here aside from the ulterior motives of Jor-El and the parents. that was unique or new. I think it was mostly kind of a remixed version of what has come before. As I was watching the movie, I saw bits and pieces from different origin stories. The driving kind of not insanity but obsession of Lex Luthor had come through previously in the well-known miniseries Red Sun, where Superman actually ends up landing in Russia instead of America, and Lex Luthor is kind of the champion of America in that version, but he's obsessed with Superman, and as he is in many interpretations of the character. So I just think it was well adapted, a very well adapted take and streamlined take on this very long history between the two characters.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really well done way of introducing the concepts and the characters that he was looking to introduce here. I think he did it. It was a very well done, well written script for juggling all these different things.
I agree, except I would I would shave off a few bits and pieces from the Radiant. I thought the engineer, trying to make Superman basically explode from within, by going in with the nanites or whatever, it reminded me too much of the Matrix and of some of the Terminator, movies where the computers are trying to get inside.
Yeah.
I thought that was derivative. I also thought making Superman's parents into the bad guys or into some kind of bad guy.
Yeah.
It reminded me too much of the Mission Impossible reboot where the boss turns out to be the bad guy. He flips. And we see that too often. So I didn't really like that. Although I accept that it was a huge shock to those of us in the audience. But
I don't
that
know how
kind
to
of
call it a
stuff-
shock because you're leaving the theater and you're like, was that real? Was it not? It's not really a shock.
I'm just saying.
But
I'm not giving it a 5. I think.
No,
I think.
don't give it a
I think
five, but-
he didn't want to go completely off books entirely, because if he'd done that, it would just be a whole new thing that he's just labeling Superman. He didn't want to do that, so it's not all entirely his fault. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Maybe a 4 or 5.
From a creativity perspective, I think I have to knock him because he didn't create entirely new concepts for the most part. You
Right.
know, the cloning storyline has been done before in the story in the comics. All the characters have been introduced before in the comics. The relationships.
Yeah.
are-
Evil
So-
Parents has been done another.
But yeah, I mean, I think Jor-El's even portrayed in a negative light in comics before.
Yeah.
And in other adaptations of Superman. But at least he didn't try to pretend he was Richard Donner, when making a movie. He
Yeah.
actually made it his own. So I would say a 4 is kind of what I'm
A
thinking.
4?
It's-
Yeah. I
Or-
agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next category is the shock or surprise value. Again, like I think
that.
yeah, like what he said, like the only shocking part was that, and it was difficult for it to be shocking because it wasn't clear
Mhm.
enough. I think people came out wondering whether it was real or not. And throughout the rest of the film, he tries to like not hammer down the fact, but say that it's real, but it doesn't give you that shock factor.
What is it shock or surprise?
Yeah, shock or
Okay, so I would say there were things I thought were surprising, but they're not high level things. I liked what they did with Superman's personality. I thought that was good. It was refreshing to see him sort of getting caught up in his own words and not
Yeah.
and doing a terrible job of his media interviews. I thought that stuff was good, different. I thought the technological stuff, not being so immersed in the entire Superman universe, it was interesting to see some of the things coming in that I had not seen before, even if they were derivative from other movies. I thought the political stuff was interesting. I haven't seen that much, so I thought there were some surprising elements, but not overwhelmingly surprising. Not blow me out of the seat surprising.
right. So I think maybe 2 or 3. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't think it was nothing was shocking. It was really entertaining for me, but I don't think anything was shocking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
2.
Okay.
Okay. The next one is government policy. And I want us to be careful about this one
Okay.
because normally we give very low ratings on government policy.
Uh-huh.
But I think we need to look at this one a little more carefully with what they... Because government policy was a big part of the plot here.
Well, look, usually we give a 0 when there's no policy.
Right.
So we can't give this one a 0 because there was policy.
Right. Whether it was good policy is the...
But at least there was some.
Whether how much...
That's the only time we give 0.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like there were some good efforts or good representation.
Good policy, but how can you go to 5?
I'm not putting a 5.
How can you go to good policy if it's Superman? They completely blew it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it begins and ends with they didn't have a policy for him until they did have a policy. And when they finally developed a policy, the policy was, let's arrest this man without any actual evidence and allow Luthor to throw him into a pocket dimension where he could have killed him if he wanted to without any government oversight.
Yeah.
But if
It's a bad policy.
If Superman was evil, would it still be a bad policy?
And also, does any policy have to do with bio?
Oh, yeah. Is it government policy or government policy to do with bio?
Just government policy in general.
Yeah, I think it's just
Okay.
in general.
But none of the policy that we saw has to do with bio, right? It's just all about
Well, the
Superman
pocket
and
universe
lack
was the
thereof.
containment. That was the only place he could be contained.
He could.
Yeah, but that's
contained,
containment. That's not bio containment.
It's just containment for a
The
superpowered
braille.
individual.
Yeah, we're talking about macro scale.
Yeah.
Bio.
But the point is that, as far as I could tell, they didn't have a policy until that video comes out, and then all of a sudden it goes from
Yeah.
we don't have a policy to
what if you?
we are now cuffing him,
Yeah.
even though he's going, willingly, and we're handing him over to Lex Luthor, who we know has a documented history of obsession
Yeah.
with this man.
That's the worst part of this.
Yeah, because they try and justify it by saying, "Oh, we'll hand it to him so the government's hands are clean."
Well,
It's like, no,
Which
that's not how
in and of itself is bad government policy.
Yeah.
So maybe a 1 or a 2.
I won.
Yeah.
They arrested Superman with little to no evidence. Like, it's a one.
Yeah. On the basis of Lex Luthor's
Yeah.
say so.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that he was roped in at all
Yeah.
into the government's response.
And it was given enough latitude and leeway that had he felt so inclined, he could have just killed Superman right there and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no oversight or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, so let's
What are we giving it a 1? We're giving it a 1
1,
because at least there was something.
We're giving him one because there was policy. It was just very, very bitter about
Yeah.
policy.
Okay.
Okay. Next is portrayal by actors. Was everybody relatively convincing for the roles that they were in?
I would say
I
so.
think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think Nicholas Hoult kind of went overboard with Lex Luthor, but
A
that
little
was
bit.
the
I
character.
think that's what was called for.
Yeah, I agree that. I think that was the point.
Yeah.
So I think it was good. What'd you guys say? 4 or 5?
I could just give it a 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next 3 categories are direction, production, writing. So with that, direction. What do you guys think?
I didn't have any problems with the direction. I wouldn't, but so the thing is, I wouldn't say, maybe I've been feeling very negative today, but I wouldn't say that there was anything special about the direction. It was a superhero movie.
What do you think, Maggie?
I don't know enough about what he's actually doing, directing. Like, I feel like I understand what the screenwriting does, and then I understand what production does, but I don't really understand too much of what the director does besides, because the actors, I mean, they kind of take their liberty in doing whatever, but I don't know how much hand he had in, like, how they portrayed their characters. So
It's more behind the
that's
scenes.
yeah, so that's hard. I don't know.
Yeah, two thoughts involving 3 scenes that I have. One, the whole scene in the pocket dimension was a bit kind of difficult to follow, because it was intentionally in a darkened area, intermixed with that kind of like radical glowing anti-proton river. Made viewing some of what was happening there a little difficult at times. So I probably ding a little bit for that. But the 2 scenes that did stand out to me that I thought were well directed was when Mr. Terrific is given his moment to shine when they reach that Luthor core beachhead, and he puts Lois in the bubble and then deals with all the guys.
That was a great scene.
It was a great. I think it was a well directed scene. And then when the scene where Superman is talking to Lois, and in the background out the window, you've got the other three heroes fighting a cosmic jellyfish. I just think that having those two things happening at the same time is really cool.
Yeah.
So I think those two scenes were really strong, and the scene in the pocket dimension was really weak. But that's what stood out to me, and I would say I'd give most credit, or not credit, to the directing for that. I think the directing was a solid 4 for me.
Yeah. So that was a solid 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say 3.5 or 3 because you just felt like it was a directed film, not a bad directed film or a bad
Well directed. Yeah, so I would
Yeah.
give it a 4.
Yeah.
Or
Okay. Then for production,
5.
yeah, it's got
Yeah.
a 5. This is
I don't know if they could invest any more in the production.
I saw not one but several people fly in this movie. I think it was
And a dog.
produced. And a dog. I keep forgetting the dog. And the dog I thought was well rendered. So
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes I
thought,
couldn't tell whether it was real or not.
I thought they put in a good amount of money for the Fortress of Solitude, because sometimes in some of these
Yeah.
movies it just looks
It look-
kind of crystalline, and then that's it. I thought they did a good job with even the things that were more normal human. Lois's apartment, and they
Yeah.
did a good job with it.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so then writing is the last one. I think that they tackled a lot of arcs and different things, but it all came together at the end, which I thought was pretty impressive. But I do wonder how much do they need to stuff in.
I think my biggest concern going into this movie was being able to fit in the relationship between Superman and Lex Luthor. All these other superheroes that had been advertised in the lead up to the movie, Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific. Make sure that Superman's relationship with Lois is covered. Factor in all the other Daily Planet staff. The engineer, which I was kind of an out of left field thing for me when I saw the advertising. And I feel like he was able to pull it off in a way that other movies, especially superhero movies that are trying to cram all sorts of villains and heroes into it, oftentimes don't.
Yeah.
So I think it was well paced and well written from that perspective. And again, we had a lot of fodder to talk about even in the abstract when it comes to bio, and it's because of the writing.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay.
4 or 5 for me.
4.5?
Yeah.
4 or 5.
4.5 for me.
4.
I'd say 4.5.
Okay, we'll go with 4.5,
Okay.
which gives us a final rating of 3.36,
3.36. Okay.
which is a good score, par for the course.
Well, I mean, I think in this case, it's heavily weighed down by 2 very bad scores for 2
Yeah.
categories. But I think it's telling from our discussion of the other categories that this was a good film. It's just,
And we definitely recommend going to see it.
and we definitely
Yeah.
recommend going to see it if both of you are a what should we call people who are interested in bioheads? Like
What?
I know exactly
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like we got to come up with a term.
We gotta come up with a term.
We got to come
yeah.
up with a term. But even if you're a bio fanatic,
Yeah.
and you're interested in this sort of stuff, I think it's worth seeing. But even if you're not, it's a great movie, and would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I think this the cool thing about this film is that it does seem like it was a film made for everyone.
Yeah, I think that was the aim.
Yeah.
on Gunn's.
Like there's some kind of perspective, whether you're interested in politics, bio, you just want to see a cool superhero movie.
Mhm.
There's something there for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you all so much for joining us on this episode of Biollywood, and we hope to see you next time. And please remember, the only thing that liberals and conservatives can agree on is
Lex Luthor sucks. Okay. Thanks.
You can see how much of a buttoned up operation we are.